If we get a night like this on Super Bowl Sunday, we'll be in great shape. Joining us right now on Big Game Bound is Kate Rooney from Cron. You have covered this team all year long. This is a team that I don't think a lot of people thought would be here when the season started. I know we talked about this a lot with Mark Carpenter, and each week people started going, and made believers out of it. This team made believers out of them. When did you become a believer?
I have to say, and this might sound an odd response, but I became a believer after a loss, and that was the Ravens game on the road, a game the 49ers easily could have won if a couple different pendulums had swung in different directions. And that convinced me that, hey, at the time the Ravens were considered the front runner for the Super Bowl in the AFC, and if the 49ers can play this well against Lamar Jackson, at the time also probably considered the eventual MVP of the league, then there's no team that they really can't handle. That was the week that I became that they were really convinced. And then after that, their other losses went on to show me the same thing as well, including the one against the Seahawks earlier in the season. But in every loss, they had a chance to be in that game. And that, to me, in a way, is almost more impressive than all the winning they've done. They've found great ways to win all season and pretty good ways to lose as well.
So you're there, you're in that locker room, you're around this team. What makes them special?
Well, we've posed that question to them a lot, right? Because obviously it's the talent, obviously it's the coaching, obviously it's some of the smart decisions they've made in the front office, like bringing Emmanuel Sanders in the middle of the season when no one was really sure what they were going to do about their receiving situation. But I think that it really has to do with the chemistry and the mindset. That's the thing that these guys have really said, and it seems to be true. They really pride themselves on not getting too high, not getting too low. They really maintain an even keel no matter the circumstances. They didn't celebrate any of the wins too hard, including the first-round playoff win. They really didn't celebrate at all until they won the NFC Championship. And they've just really tried to stay focused, locked in, keep it about this team, about what they're doing on the field, and about their execution. And they love each other. They have a good time together. Ask any of them. They'll say that it's one of the most special brotherhoods that they've ever been around, and that's translated.
You know, every locker room will have kind of that alpha dog or some of those leaders. Who are the guys that have really kind of set the tone for the 49ers?
Well, Richard Sherman, of course, because he's a guy who's outspoken, he's a guy who's a veteran, and he's a guy that a lot of the younger players watched when they were in high school and college. So they really look up to him and respect him, and he has a great command of the locker room. But also George Kittle. He's a younger guy who just has such a big, energetic, optimistic personality that he provides, I think, just a happy-go-lucky vibe that everyone responds to really well. And there are a lot of other big personalities on the team, too. You look at the receiving corps, another group of young guys like Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne. They are just full of fire and life and joie de vivre all the time, and it rubs off on the rest of their teammates. And then, of course, you've got the more quiet veterans like Joe Staley, but they have a really good mix of personalities. I think there's a little bit of something for everyone, and it blends all together to make a really great product.
I've covered some NFL in my time, and there's always a couple of guys that are go-to in the locker room for journalists. I've got to believe Richard Sherman might be that guy.
You know, as someone who has covered the 49ers and grew up in San Francisco watching the 49ers, I can't say that I was a huge Richard Sherman fan until he came to San Francisco, but
not when he played for the Seahawks.
No, he's quickly become one of my favorite players because he is so eloquent, gives such thoughtful answers, is always, almost always, very few exceptions, really willing to talk to the media. Even though he has a weekly podium session, he also will chat with us in the locker room, and he's just great to talk to. There's Raheem Mostert is actually another guy who, even before he broke out, is someone I would approach in the locker room because he is just so nice and will give you some thoughtful answers as well. And, I think those are the things that as a media member you really appreciate. You don't want those 2 to 3 word answers like you get from some guys. They've got, like I said, a great mix of personalities on this team.
All right, Kate, your thoughts on this matchup, 49ers Chiefs in the Super Bowl. What do you see happening on Sunday?
I think it's such a fantastic matchup, and I've just been so excited since we knew that this was going to be the one. It's going to be so great. Will the 49ers be able to establish that run against a Chiefs defense that has really struggled against the run during the regular season? Will the 49ers be able to handle Patrick Mahomes and his crazy arsenal of weapons that he has? I think it's going to be asking a lot, not just of the 49ers pass rush, but especially of the 49ers secondary. But that being said, I think the 49ers are a really complete team. They've shown all season that they have depth. They have guys who can step in even with a litany of injuries that they faced throughout the season. And I have to say, hopefully it's not just a bias from spending time around this team, but I do think they have all the tools to win a championship.